Imagine finding loose change in your pocket worth millions. In today's video, we reveal the top 3 ultra-rare UK Elizabeth II coins that can turn an ordinary penny into a life-changing fortune. Stay tuned, you won't believe the shocking values these hidden treasures can fetch at auction. Millions of these coins were made and people used them every day without thinking much about them. Most of the coins were normal and today they are worth only face value. But a few of them had mistakes made at the Royal Mint, and those mistakes created what we now call error coins. These error coins are very rare and collectors around the world are willing to pay huge amounts of money to own them. Imagine a coin that is only 2 pence in value selling for the price of a house or a luxury car. That is exactly what has happened with the rare 1971 era 2 New Pence. Some of these coins have sold for $65,000, $73,000, and even up to $84,000. The thought that a small coin could bring that much money is almost hard to believe, but it is true, and it is why so many people check their old coins very carefully. The mistakes that make these coins so valuable can be different types. Some coins were struck off center, which means the design is not in the right place. When you look at the coin, you might see part of the design missing or pushed to one side. Other coins were struck twice, which is called a double strike. This means the words or pictures on the coin may appear doubled or blurred. There are also coins made on the wrong piece of metal called the wrong planchet error. For example, a 2p coin might have been struck on a blank made for a 1p coin, which makes it smaller or a different color. Sometimes the design is not lined up correctly on both sides, which is called a die rotation error. All of these strange details turn a normal coin into something collectors are desperate to buy. The reason these coins are so valuable is not only the mistakes but also the year 1971 itself. Because it was the very first year of the new decimal money system, coins from this year are already special. Add an error to that and you suddenly have a piece of history that is unlike almost anything else. Collectors know how rare they are, and when one shows up at an auction the price goes higher and higher as people bid against each other. It is amazing to think that for most people the 1971 2 New Pence was just change in their pocket. They bought candy, newspapers, or bus rides with it. Nobody thought that decades later some of those same coins would be worth tens of thousands of dollars. This is why stories about people finding rare coins in jars or boxes at home are so exciting. Imagine finding one in an old purse or in a collection passed down from a family member. That one little coin could change your life. When you look at a 1971 2 New Pence, the first thing is to check the words on the coin. It should say New Pence and not just pence, because the wording was changed later in 1982. If your coin says New Pence and it is from 1971, then you have the right year. Next, look very closely for mistakes. Is the writing doubled? Is the design not centered? Does the coin look too small or too big? Does it feel lighter or heavier than normal? All of these can be signs of an error coin. Because these coins are so valuable, it is always best to have them checked by a professional coin expert or grading service. They can tell you if what you have is a genuine error and how rare it is. The better the condition of the coin, the more money it can bring. A shiny coin with little wear is always worth more than one that is scratched or damaged. Some coins are found in near-perfect condition because they were saved in collections right from the start. These are the coins that bring the highest prices at auctions. Collectors are not only buying these coins for fun but also as an investment. Rare coins often grow in value as time passes, especially when there are only a few examples known. The 1971 era 2 New Pence is one of those coins. There may only be a handful in the entire world, which makes each one very special. People with deep pockets are willing to pay whatever it takes to own one because they know they may never get another chance. Think about this. A regular 1971 2p coin is worth almost nothing, maybe a few cents to a collector. But an error version is worth tens of thousands of dollars. The difference is like night and day. This is why people love the hobby of coin collecting. It shows that even something small and ordinary can turn out to be priceless. There are stories of people who found one of these coins by accident. They may have kept it for years without knowing what it really was. When they finally brought it to a coin dealer, they were shocked to learn its value. One man discovered his coin was worth more than his car. Another saw his coin sell at auction for over $70,000. Stories like these make everyone want to check their change more carefully. So the lesson is simple. Never ignore old coins, especially from important years like 1971. Look closely because you never know what you might have. That small coin hiding in a drawer could be your ticket to a fortune. The rare 1971 era 2 New Pence is proof that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. In the end, the excitement is not only about the money but also about the history. When you hold a 1971 2 New Pence, you are holding the start of a new chapter in British money. When that coin has an error, you are holding a mistake that slipped past the mint and survived for more than 50 years. That is something truly special. Collectors know this, and that is why they are ready to pay such huge amounts. Others were struck on the wrong blank, which means the coin could be lighter, smaller, or the wrong color. There are also coins where the design on the front and back is rotated, so when you flip the coin, the Queen's portrait does not line up with the reverse design. Each of these mistakes makes the coin unique, and when something is unique in the coin world, it becomes very valuable. The normal 1971 5 New Pence is worth almost nothing more than face value today, maybe a few cents if a collector wants one. But the rare error versions can bring life-changing money. At auctions, collectors have paid $70,000, $83,000, and even up to $89,000 for one coin. That is the kind of money that can buy a luxury car, pay off a mortgage, or change someone's life. The thought that a small coin from your pocket could be worth that much is almost unbelievable, but it is true and it has happened. Why so much money for a small coin? The answer is history and rarity. The year 1971 was the very start of the new money system in Britain, so coins from that year already have importance. Add to that the fact that only a few error coins exist, and you have something that collectors cannot resist. The demand is huge, but the supply is tiny. When a rare 1971 era 5 New Pence appears in an auction, collectors fight for it, and the price climbs higher and higher until someone wins it at an eye-watering number. You may be asking yourself, how do I know if I have one of these coins? The first step is to check the date. It must say 1971. Then look closely at the coin. Is the design perfectly centered, or is it off to one side? Do the letters or numbers look doubled or blurred? Does the coin feel lighter or heavier than it should? Does the Queen's head line up with the back design when you flip it? Any of these things could point to an error. If you think you have something unusual, never spend it. Put it aside and get it checked by a coin expert or grading service. They can confirm if it is a real error and tell you how valuable it might be. There are stories of people who discovered these coins by accident. One man found a strange-looking 5 New Pence in a jar of old change he had saved for years. When he took it to a dealer, he learned it was a rare error coin worth tens of thousands of dollars. Another person bought a small box of coins at a market and later found out that one of them was a 1971 era 5p worth more than $70,000. Stories like these keep collectors and treasure hunters excited because it shows that rare finds can still appear in the most ordinary places. The fun of coin collecting is not only about money. It is also about history and discovery. When you hold a 1971 5 New Pence, you are holding a piece of the moment when Britain moved into a modern money system. When that coin has an error, you are holding a rare accident that was never supposed to exist. It is like a window into the minting process and a lucky escape from the strict quality checks at the Royal Mint. That makes it not only valuable but also fascinating. Think again about those numbers. $70,000, $83,000, even $89,000. For a single coin. It is hard to believe, but it is real. Some people keep coins for fun, some for investment, but when a coin can bring that kind of money, it becomes a treasure. A regular 1971 5 New Pence is almost worthless today, but an error version can be worth more than many people earn in a year. That is the power of rarity and collector demand. So the next time you see a 1971 5 New Pence, take a moment to look at it closely. Do not just see a small silver coin. Think about the possibility that it could be a fortune waiting to be discovered. Most people will never find one, but those who do will never forget it. The rare 1971 era 5 New Pence proves that even the smallest and simplest things can hide amazing value. You're digging through an old jar of coins, the kind that's been sitting on a shelf for years, and you pull out a quarter. At first glance it looks normal, just another 1999 Pennsylvania state quarter. But then, when you tilt it under the light, you see something different. The color looks strange, almost golden or brassy. The surface doesn't shine the same way as a normal quarter. Your heart starts racing. The Pennsylvania quarter was the second coin in the 50-state quarters program, released in early 1999 right after Delaware. It shows the statue of the Commonwealth, the outline of the state, and the words virtue, liberty, independence. Over 1 billion of these were made in Philadelphia with the P mint mark, so in theory they are very common. But that's what makes the rare errors stand out. When you have a sea of over 1 billion ordinary coins, even a handful of mistakes become incredibly rare. And that's exactly what happened in 1999, because the mint was experimenting with different metals for the new golden dollar coin that would come out the next year. They made test pieces using a special alloy, and somehow, some of those experimental planchets slipped into the presses for the state quarters. That is how a few Pennsylvania quarters were struck on the wrong metal. Instead of the usual silver-colored copper-nickel blend, they came out a golden, brassy color, looking like no other quarter. Collectors call these experimental planchet errors, and they are among the rarest and most valuable quarters you could ever hope to see. Now, what makes them so special? It's partly the history. The mint was preparing for the Sacagawea golden dollar, and they had to test the new manganese brass alloy. They fed those test blanks into presses to see how they would strike. But a small number ended up being used on state quarter dies. That accident created coins that were never supposed to exist. Because only a handful were discovered, the value went through the roof. Certified examples have sold at major auctions for thousands of dollars, often in the $7,000 to $10,000 range. Imagine holding a quarter worth more than a used car. Imagine dropping one in a soda machine without knowing and losing it forever. That is the kind of excitement that keeps people searching every time they open a roll of quarters. But the experimental planchet isn't the only valuable error for the Pennsylvania quarter. Another key one to look out for is a missing clad layer. A normal quarter has 3 layers, with a copper core sandwiched between 2 nickel layers that give it that silvery shine. If one of those outer layers is missing, one side of the coin will appear copper-colored while the other looks normal. These can be dramatic, and they're fairly easy to spot if you know what to look for. A missing clad error from 1999 can easily sell for a few $100s, and if it's certified by a grading company in high condition, it might even reach over $1,000. That's not bad for something that could slip by unnoticed in change. There are also striking errors that happened when the coin was made. Off-center strikes are one of the most dramatic. That's when the blank wasn't seated correctly in the press, so the design is shifted to one side and part of the coin is left blank. The more off-center it is, the more valuable it can be, especially if the date is still visible. A Pennsylvania quarter that's 50% off-center could bring hundreds of dollars or more. Broad strikes are another type, where the coin wasn't properly held in the collar during striking and the metal spread out wider than normal, leaving a flat, smooth rim. These are very eye-catching, and collectors will pay good money for them, often in the range of $100 to several $100s depending on how dramatic the error is. Then there are double strikes, where the coin was struck twice with a visible shift between impressions. Those are rare and can climb into high values as well. When you hear about state quarters selling for unbelievable numbers like $70,000 or even $100,000, what you're usually hearing about are mule errors. A mule is when the wrong front and back dies are paired together. The most famous is the Sacagawea dollar with a Washington quarter obverse. Those coins have actually sold for more than $80,000, making headlines everywhere. The Pennsylvania quarter itself doesn't have a confirmed mule like that, but the experimental planchet pieces are its crown jewel and can realistically reach the 5-figure range in the right condition. So while it may not hit 100,000, it's still among the most exciting and valuable state quarters to collect. The key is knowing how to spot one. Start by paying attention to the color. A golden or brassy hue could mean an experimental planchet. Weigh the coin if you can. A normal quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. An off-metal strike might weigh differently. For missing clad errors, check if one side looks copper. Look closely at the edges too. If the edge looks unusual or shows only copper with no nickel layers, that's a big clue. And for strike errors, just trust your eyes. If the design looks shifted, doubled, or spread out, you probably have something worth saving.